We back. Yeah, we back. Wow. Legendary series, man. Like I said, in this series, we are reading the biography of King Henri Christophe, man. One of the greatest black men to ever walk the face of the earth. Now, part 7. We have reached part 7. I do not know how long this book is about to be. I do not know how long this series is about to be. I'm trying to get to it as fast as possible, right? To be honest, I'm only about 43% into the book. So, who knows? I'm trying not to go past 15 parts. Hopefully, part 15, we can condense it down to that. Now, like I always say, start from the beginning so everything makes sense. Start from part 1, right? In part 1, we discuss his origins, where'd he come from. Part 2, we discuss where was he in the first days of the revolution. Part 3, we discuss the rise to power. Part 4, we discuss the French invasion of 1802. Part 5, we discuss the various battles of the revolution leading up to the victorious climax. Part 6, we discuss the first 2 years of the Haitian state under Dessalines, right after the revolution. The construction of the citadel, one of the greatest architectural achievements the black man ever produced. We also discuss the Dessalines administration and the Dessalines assassination, the precursor to the nation being divided into 2 states. Now, where we left off at part 6, Christophe is about to march on Port-au-Prince. He has realized that he has been played for a fool, and due to this realization, he has now resorted to taking up arms to defend his honor. Now, let's get back into the book, man. The fatal moment has arrived, wrote Baron de Vasty in his history of the rise of Christophe's monarchy. Vasty said, Haitian blood had been shed by Haitian hands. Civil war was kindled and brought in his train all those horrors and misfortunes which had afflicted our wretched and unhappy country. Alexander Pétion had anticipated the possibility that a struggle with Christophe would have to be settled on the battlefield and set 3,000 infantry and 300 cavalry north towards the town of Vagaet to meet the likely attack, but he had not anticipated the speed with which the enemy struck. Christophe had divided his forces in 2 and sent a second column to loop east to encircle any opposing force. With barely a shot having been fired, Pétion was forced to retire his forces back to Cibert, one of a half-dozen fortified outposts on the Plain de Cul-de-Sac, guarding the approaches to Port-au-Prince, just 9 kilometers from the gates. At first, Christophe's men tried to parley. Many of them knew those they now faced from the revolution. There was only one legitimate head of state, they called out, as they exhorted the opposing ranks to abandon the traitor, Alexander Pétion. They said, why should we slit each other's throats to satisfy the ambition of a conspirator, an enemy of the country? When Christophe's men were met with refusal, the forts were overrun. Christophe preferred to direct the action from a distance, but Pétion threw himself into the thick of the fighting. His distinctive hat was spotted as he led a cavalry charge, and a squadron of dragoons was sent after him. After a bloody pursuit, they succeeded in killing Pétion's horse from under him. But when they closed in for the capture, they discovered their quarry was a young officer who had seized Pétion's hat during the melee to protect his commander, who had been able to slip back into the lines unnoticed. The civil war had almost ended as soon as it begun, but Christophe's impatience in ordering such a rapid attack now began to tell. The speed with which he had marched his men south had meant leaving his artillery behind. His superior numbers meant that he was able to push the Republican troops back to Fort Saint-Joseph on the walls of Port-au-Prince, but he was unprepared for a siege. Pétion was able to bring up cannons and sent for urgent reinforcements from the south. Their arrival swung on a pendulum in favor of the defenders. Over the coming days, Christophe repeatedly sent his men against the city to no effect. The final assault came on a moonless night of the 6th of January, 1807. The defenders at the walls were too strong and jeered the assailants while taking pot shots at them. 2 days later, Christophe bitterly struck camp and marched back north. In an echo of the failed siege of Santo Domingo, he burned the city down as he left, leaving Pétion a field of ashes. Now, time out, man. One thing is for certain. When you're going up against Christophe militarily, you got to kill him. Because if you don't kill him, it's 100% chance, it's 150% chance he's going to burn the city down. If he doesn't capture the city, he's going to burn it down. It's either you let him capture the city or he's going to burn the city down. You're going to lose the city. So, you got to kill this dude because you're going to lose the city. Let's continue. The American merchant, Simeon Johnson, was in the town of Gonaïves when Christophe arrived in the city and was impressed by what he saw of his army. He said, it's surprising what little baggage. Large armies of 8,000 or 10,000 men march, a knapsack with a few bananas and a calabash for water as their equipment, no baggage wagons, no luggage of any kind to follow tardily after the army. They move with a speed that is really astonishing. Hunger, fatigue, rain, heat of the sun has no effect upon them. Seldom are there any sick. In the field, they are brave in the extreme, having excellent officers and well disciplined. No European troops in this climate could succeed for one campaign against them. United, they are invulnerable. The fact that the Haitian forces were no longer united suggested that delivering a knockout blow to the opposition would be a hard task. After rumors that the town of Saint Marc was to be attacked by Pétion proved unfounded, Christophe went back to Cap-Haïtien to plot his next move. On the 17th of February, a new constitutional assembly formally pronounced Christophe the president and generalissimo of the land and sea forces of the state of Haiti. There was to be no Senate to limit his powers, just an advisory state council of his most loyal officers. In this new state, Pétion and Gérin were declared outlaws, and their officers and general ranks offered an amnesty to encourage them to defect. A further raft of proclamations followed as Christophe began to piece together a new state machinery. The Port-au-Prince authorities took equal advantage of the break in hostility. The Senate voted in Pétion as the president of the new Republic of Haiti. Within a few months, it adjourned its activities completely to hand over full executive power to Pétion to prosecute the war, turning him into the absolute ruler that he had so vocally denounced Christophe for aspiring to. For Vasty, this reflected the characters of the two men. Christophe's frank and energetic character had moved openly to defend his legitimacy, while Pétion's Machiavellian streak meant that he aimed at accomplishing his dark designs by secret intrigue. Christophe spent March and April touring the north and formalizing new laws until the gathering of political breath on both sides was punctured by an outbreak of fighting from an unexpected quarter. In the second week of May, the 9th Regiment in Port-au-Prince mutinied. The uprising was led by Jean-Louis Rebecca, who had previously been under the command of Capois. Now his former troops declared themselves for Pétion and the Republic. The revolt was squashed by General Romain, but the language of liberty the rebels used showed how easily the seeds of dissent could blossom into revolt. At the end of May, a surprise naval landing by General Bazelet briefly saw the town of Gonaïves fall out of northern control, while Pétion's army tore its way up the coast to lay siege to Saint Marc. Christophe soon relieved the city and pushed Pétion south, but a month later, he was forced back to the northwest when another Republican naval landing led to the capture of Port-au-Prince. The expedition's leader was an officer named Lamar, who had led the defense of Fort Saint-Joseph during January's battle for Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince and the surrounding area became a key battleground in the Civil War. It would take nearly 2 years for the region to fully submit to Christophe, and even when Port-au-Prince was retaken, Lamar stubbornly retreated to the heavily fortified port of Mont-Saint-Nicolas, where Pétion's naval superiority allowed him to be easily resupplied. A pattern quickly unfolded of rapid advances and retreats. With the opposing army so evenly balanced on the battlefield, the war became a struggle for the loyalties of individual army officers. Deception and strategic defection had been a key part of the revolution, and just as Capois' ghost had reappeared in Port-au-Prince to inspire his former soldiers, Pétion faced division in his own ranks. In July 1807, he sent troops to Léogane after uncovering an alleged conspiracy against him led by General Yayu, who had dealt Dessalines the killing blow at Pont Rouge. A few months later, Magloire Ambroise, who had provided the artillery that helped save Port-au-Prince, was arrested in Jacmel on similar charges. In Gondance in the far southwest, an officer named Goman had raised the flag of rebellion and began raiding the rich coffee port of Jérémy with apparent impunity. In return for shipments of arms from the north, Goman was happy to nominally ally himself with Christophe while setting up his own Maroon Republic and removing himself from the machinery of the state altogether. Now, time out. Now, some of the Maroons are now riding with Christophe. Some of the Maroons down south in Pétion's territory are now riding with Christophe. Christophe sending weapons down south to the Maroons down south to destabilize Pétion's territory down south. Now, let's continue. Propaganda was an equally important factor in the war between the two states. Reports of the war were published in the national newspaper of Christophe's territory, entitled The Official Gazette of the State of Haiti, which was the mouthpiece for Christophe's state, and provided a platform for its editor, Dessalines' former secretary, Justin Lat, who was a talented writer and poet in his own right. Now, time out, man. The ancestors understood the importance of controlling your own media, controlling your own narrative, right? They understood the importance. They knew the battlefield was more than just hopping on the battlefield physically. It's more than physical warfare, right? There's economic warfare, diplomatic warfare, propaganda warfare. The ancestors understood this stuff centuries ago, man. The ancestors was way superior than us in the modern day. Let's continue. Christophe's newspaper reprinted foreign news articles and shipping lists as well as government proclamations. Its earliest issues carried extensive coverage of the recent British abolition of the slave trade and its champion William Wilberforce, as well as serializing an essay by Justin Lat that raged against the Senate in Port-au-Prince, which they renamed Port of Crimes, calling the Senate illegal, immoral, and acting against the wishes of the Haitian people. Reports from a newspaper called The Lambigu were also reprinted. Its publisher was Jean-Gabriel Peltier, a French monarchist living in self-imposed exile in London. Peltier, who had once been sued for libel by Napoleon Bonaparte, was a keen supporter of Haitian independence and had offered his services as political agent to Dessalines shortly before his assassination. In April, Christophe's secretary, Joseph Runez, wrote to Peltier asking him to lobby the British government to win diplomatic recognition and a commercial treaty between the two countries. 3 months later, Christophe also sent Thomas Richardson, a black British merchant based in Cap-Haïtien, as a second lobbyist with detailed proposals to put to the British cabinet. Christophe offered himself as a partner in Britain's war against the French. Haiti was a sovereign nation, he said, but one that would be happy to find itself under British protection. He painted Pétion's revolt as a result of intrigues by the French, who were eager to use Port-au-Prince as a base against Jamaica, and proposed a Royal Navy blockade of southern Haiti and the French garrison in Santo Domingo, whose liberation he would then achieve with his own army. Now, you remember what I mentioned earlier in the last episode? I said, man, what if the southern mixed race generals were conspiring with their white fathers and their white half brothers and their white cousins and their white uncles and their white grandfathers back in France to overthrow the Dessalines administration, to take power for themselves, right? And even Christophe even had the same speculation over 200 years ago. Christophe said the revolt was a result of intrigues by the French, who were eager to use Port-au-Prince, which was the power base of the mulattoes down south, as a base against Jamaica. Oh, man. Now, of course, Christophe might just be saying that to portray the mulattoes as an adversarial faction against the British, so the British will be more likely to supply him with arms and ammunition, etc., etc. But it's funny how he made the same insinuation as me. Now, let's continue. Together, Peltier and Richardson barraged Lord Castlereagh, the British Secretary of State for War in the Colonies, with their petitions. Peltier had good reason to hope that his request for a meeting would be granted, as Castlereagh had once been involved with the grant from the civil list to support the publication of his newspaper, Lambigu. Their letters were sometimes contradictory. In one letter, Peltier insisted that Christophe was on the cusp of victory over the South and held back only out of concern for the loss of innocent lives. In another letter, Richardson urgently asked that Castlereagh prevent the sailing of British ships loaded with military supplies bound for Port-au-Prince, as it is not only Pétion who received the supplies, but by that means French General Ferrand at Santo Domingo, as being in confederacy with the mulattoes in the southern part. To further assure the British of his pacific intentions, Christophe promised to restrict his vessels to Haitian waters, and assured the British that as soon as his victory over Pétion was complete, he would greatly reduce the size of his army and concentrate on the expansion of agriculture to the financial benefit of both sides. Now, for those of y'all that's been following my channel for a very long time, then you already know that several European nations, not only the British, had demanded that Christophe reduce the size of his armies. And on paper, verbally, Christophe, I'll reduce the size of the army. But, for those of y'all that have been following my channel, you know that later on, Christophe would actually expand the size of his army, expand the firepower of his army as time goes on, right? As time goes on, his army actually becomes more strong and more formidable as he's, verbally telling the Europeans, yeah, I'll reduce the size of the army. Meanwhile, the army getting stronger. Meanwhile, the army getting bigger. Let's continue. Castlereagh was also sent a 3-part memoir explaining the Haitian perspective of their nation-building efforts. It likened their situation to that of the United States, which had equally won its independence through insurrection. With a leader such as Christophe, London would have the perfect partner to stand together against French tyranny. Now, time out. It reminds me of the power dynamics of today, right? Where you see these debates about certain nations, whether they want to ally or, partner up with the West, or they might want to link up with the Russians, right? Because obviously the Russians are adversarial to the West. So, playing the different powers against each other, right? Toussaint Louverture was excellent at that. Playing the French against the Spanish, playing the Spanish against the French, playing the British against the French, playing the Americans against the British, playing the Americans against the French, right? So now Christophe is engaging in the same behavior, playing the British against the French against the British, because as you know, one of the longest running rivalries in the history of geopolitics, the French versus the British, something that goes back centuries, long before Christopher Columbus even landed on these shores, man. Let's continue. Castlereagh never responded, even when Richardson, who was due to sail back to Haiti, begged for a reply to take with him. The letters may have been ignored thanks to George Shee, Castlereagh's undersecretary, who had his own direct line to Haiti, courtesy of Robert Sutherland, the unofficial head of the British merchants in Port-au-Prince. Sutherland had been an early supporter of Dessalines, and in 1806 had made his own private attempts to persuade London of the commercial benefits of recognizing Haiti. He provided intelligence on the military and political situation there to Shee, including an estimate of the size of the army, based on an order Dessalines had placed with him for a consignment of buttons for new uniforms. Sutherland believed that the Black Party of Haiti intended to wipe out the Mulatto Party and made it his mission to help Pétion in any way he could. He wrote to London accusing Christophe of being an agent for France, and then gave practical support to Pétion by supplying his forces not just with gunpowder, but the beginnings of a navy. In the summer of 1807, a Royal Navy admiral commanding in Jamaica learned that Sutherland had just outfitted an armed ship called the Lord Duncan and asked for instructions on how to proceed should he encounter a British-owned warship flying Haitian colors. The appearance of the Lord Duncan signaled a new phase of the Civil War. Following Pétion's military landings at Gonaïves and Port-au-Prince, both sides were rushing to build up their infant fleets. For help, Christophe turned to Thomas Goodall, a naval captain from Bristol. Goodall had run away to sea as a boy and served with the Royal Navy in the Caribbean, and in 1806 had been issued with a letter of marque from the Admiralty for his ship, the young Russes, to act as a privateer against enemy shipping. Now, time out. Like I mentioned before, the author of this book is British, so that's obviously why you see so many, random British references popping up, sprinkled in throughout the book. We got to keep in mind the author of the book, the man who wrote the book, is a British man, so obviously he's gonna throw in, the British references during that time. So, that's just part of the game. Let's continue. It appears that Goodall intended to prey on French ships that were carrying out raids along the Haitian coast, but after calling at Cap Haitien, he became acquainted with Christophe and sympathetic to his cause. It was the young Russes that carried Richardson to and from London, and while there, its captain set about procuring more ships for the state of Haiti, Christophe's territory. In December, Goodall set off from Portsmouth with 4 other ships in tow. Alongside the young Russes was the equally well-armed Hopewell, commanded by John McCulloch, plus 3 other merchant ships. All were laden with arms. Christophe was also eager to acquire more of the formal trappings of power, and the Hopewell carried 2 state carriages of fanciful form with 10 harnesses that had been built for him in London and then put on public display. When the ships arrived in Cap Haitien, Christophe purchased the young Russes outright and a half share in the Hopewell, and proceeded to outfit them with French cannons captured during the Revolution. Now, time out, man. Is Christophe the first black man in the Western Hemisphere to be having them armed ships on the waters? Was Christophe the first black man to put armed ships on the waters in the Western Hemisphere? Was he the first black man he might be the first black man to do it, man. Christophe might be the first black man to have his own ships, his own warships out on the seas, man. At least in the Western Hemisphere, in the so-called New World. Yeah, and on this side of the planet, I think Christophe might have been the first black man to put warships in the seas. And you can get an idea of the level of resources and power that Christophe has at this time. I believe he's only maybe 39 years old, 40 years old at this time. And he just bought 1.5 British warships straight cash. Straight cash on the spot. He's like, I buy the whole ship on the spot right now. I got the cash right now. I'll come back with the money right now. Like, man, Christophe was not playing no games, bro. Black man in the early 1800s doing it major, bro. Let's continue. The 2 new ships doubled the size of Christophe's navy. They were soon in action against Pétion's forces invested along the northwest coast, and in February 1808, Christophe successfully landed 600 troops to capture the island of Tortuga on the opposite end of Port-au-Prince. Further along the coast, they encountered 2 armed schooners flying Pétion's flag before the coastal fort at Jean-Abel. Goodall maneuvered the young Russes alongside one and crippled it with a shuddering broadside. The second was driven onto the rocky shore where it was set ablaze, and the fort recaptured for the north. The loss on the sides of Pétion exceeded 500 men, and the victory was so complete that Christophe declared that it had dealt a fatal blow to those traitors and infamous rebels who still adhered to the odious league of Pétion. Only 4 of Christophe's crew lost their lives, but one of them was McCulloch, who was killed by a musket ball in his first action under Haitian colors. On Christophe's orders, McCulloch was buried with full military honors at an open-air service in the cathedral at Cap Haitien, whose roof was yet to be rebuilt after the revolution. The naval engagement at Jean-Abel had repercussions beyond Haiti. The British government was refusing to engage with the question of Haiti's sovereignty, but the news that Christophe had employed a British man as his admiral was a new issue altogether. As one newspaper commented, this affair will probably lead to the discussion of a curious question. Had Captain Goodall a license from the king to enter into this foreign service? If not, in what light is his conduct to be viewed? Now, time out. When I listen to that passage, the only thing I hear is that this was not any official dealings between Christophe and the British government. This was something that was done undercover. This was something that was done on the black market, right? Christophe done bought, some warships, straight cash on the low key, right? And it kind of really highlights the poetry of Christophe's life, because keep in mind, like you already know, he was not born in Haiti. He was born far away on the British colonies, right? He was born on a plantation in a British colony. And now, as a grown man, he's a sovereign leader of his own territory, and he's amassed enough money and power that he could buy an entire British warship straight cash. That's not something that somebody does in a single lifetime, man. To go from being born on a plantation to being 39 years old, buying a warship, that's not regular, bro. Christophe was not regular, man. Let's continue. In the summer of 1808, Thomas Goodall was back in London in the Hopewell. With the proceeds of a cargo of Haitian sugar and coffee, he made a donation in Christophe's name of £100 for the relief of British prisoners of war in France, alongside an annual subscription of 20 guineas to the Humane Society. When he returned to Haiti, Goodall was soon back patrolling the rest of Northwest Coast in the new flagship that he had brought from Britain, the Lord Mulgrave. Pétion ships were blockading Port-au-Prince, and Jean-Abel was back under Lamar's control. Christophe's orders were precise. Set sail with the squadron and head in the direction of Jean-Abel. If you can burn down that town, burn it down. After that, you'll proceed in the direction of Mont-Saint-Nicolas to see if the rebels are still there. Should this not be the case, you will pursue them to the Bay of St. Mark, where you are sure to capture some of them. I would have liked you to go as far as the Bay of St. Mark. However, if the rebel ships are at the mole, you will cruise in the vicinity to find out whether they remain in that place, for they cannot hold out for long, not having the means or supplies. After lifting the blockade, Goodall sailed in high spirits from Mont-Saint-Nicolas. Here he met his stiffest opponent yet, the HMS Daedalus, under the rigid command of one Captain Charlton. Charlton put the Lord Mulgrave to the chase, bringing her alongside with the threatening broadside of cannon. Goodall was detained and his ship sent back to Port Royal in Jamaica, where Charlton intended to claim it as a prize. A second Royal Navy ship was sent to advise Christophe of the encounter. Christophe was outraged by the actions of an officer of a country he regarded as a potential ally, and just as his admiral was about to deal a hammer blow against the Southern Navy. Now, time out. It seems that both sides are receiving, military support from certain British factions, right? So you got a British faction that is down with the mulattoes, and then you got a British faction that's down with Christophe. Now, this is crazy, right? Now, this is really weird. Now keep in mind, these Navy captains are operating on their own accord. They're not given orders by the King of England. They're doing this on their own. Like the monarchy in England doesn't even know what's happening right now, right? This is all undercover. Keep in mind, Haiti's not even recognized as an independent state yet. So let's continue. In a letter to Admiral Rowley in Jamaica, Christophe accused Captain Charlton of behaving as the declared protector of the rebels and of waging a single-handed war against a friendly government which has never ceased giving proofs of its attachment to the subjects of the King of England. The letter was delivered by General Simon, the highest-ranking Haitian official to travel to Jamaica since independence, and Harmer Gaskell, a representative of the British merchants at Cap-Haïtien, who sent their own petition asking the British authorities to bear their interests in mind when resolving the situation. In Port Royal, the news of the Lord Mulgrave's capture was unhappily received. Captain Charlton's unauthorized actions put Rowley in the unenviable position of formulating an opinion on the delicate question of Haiti's status. Was Haiti still a French colony or one in revolt? If so, Goodall was a traitor to the crown and his ship had been legally seized. But if Haiti was a sovereign state, Goodall was in service to a power that might be called on to harass British merchants carrying out legal trade with Port-au-Prince. Rowley sought the opinion of Jamaica's governor and advocate general, who suggested that the Lord Mulgrave be sent to London for the Admiralty to deal with. After weeks of deliberation, a compromise was agreed on. The Lord Mulgrave would be restored to Christophe, while Goodall was sent under arms to England to be examined over his conduct. Damn, man, Christophe done got a second ship. Christophe done got a second ship, man. Damn, black man, 39 years old, multi-millionaire, got 2 warships in the harbor. I got the palace under construction. I got the citadel under construction. My wife is beautiful, man. I got diamonds and rings and chains. I got money. I got gold. I got coffee. I got sugar for sale. I'm a black man and I'm really doing it, bro. Let's continue. Rowley breathed a sigh of relief. Castlereagh was given legal advice suggesting that a successful prosecution against Goodall for being in the service of a foreign power of whatever flag was slim. This provided him with the excuse to file the case in the same way that he dealt with Peltier's lobbying, by refusing to acknowledge it. Goodall was quietly released. When he eventually made his way back to Haiti in November 1809, it was at the helm of another ship for Christophe's navy. God damn, man, Christophe just stacking up on ships, man. November 1809, that would mean Christophe he just turned 42. Man, black man, 42 years old, trying to get a 3rd warship, man. Jesus Christ, born on the plantation. Crazy. Let's continue. When he eventually made his way back to Haiti in November 1809, it was at the helm of another ship for Christophe's navy, a very beautiful ship that was quickly rechristened the Haitian. A banquet was thrown in Goodall's honor in Cap-Haïtien as thanks for his loyal service. The Northern Fleet now consisted of 7 warships and a small cutter. God damn, I thought Christophe only had 3. Christophe had 7. Man, different type of black man. Black man had 7 warships in the waters. Let's continue. The Northern Fleet now consisted of 7 warships and a small cutter, but a buoyant Christophe demanded even more ships so that he could begin his blockade of the South. God damn, Christophe, how many warships you need? How many you need, bruh? Oh man, let's continue. Christophe's French merchant friend, Joseph Bunel, who now divided his interest between Cap-Haïtien and Philadelphia, was commissioned to outfit a 38-gun Corvette in the shipyards of Baltimore. Christophe different, man. Christophe trying to get the ships from goddamn Great Britain. He in Philly talking about, nigga, give me the 38-gun Corvette. What the hell is a 38-gun Corvette? Like, bro, what the hell is that? Let's continue. Despite an official trade embargo on Haiti by the United States, Christophe knew well that the illicit trade between the two nations was booming. Some months earlier, he had placed notices in the American press criticizing the unhappy circumstance of the embargo and taken to task the falsity of the infamous impostures my enemies in southern Haiti have spread with so much profusion against me. Christophe urged merchants to avoid the disorder of Port-au-Prince and to sail for the protected harbors of the north instead. Still, Bunel was nervous about leaving the port without tangling with the authorities. Christophe told him to sail first for Puerto Rico rather than directly to Haiti, and to try as far as you can to avoid meeting any vessel whatsoever. Bunel successfully delivered the ship in early 1810. Damn, in 1810, Christophe got a 38-gun Corvette. I don't even know what that is, bro, but apparently that joint got 38 guns on it. Let's continue. Christophe would have regarded the delivery as a particularly sweet win over President Jefferson's blockade. The white man trying to stop the black man's shine, but we still stacking up them warships, baby. Damn near 10 warships in the fleet, and we blockaded, and we got the embargo, but we still bringing in them ships. Let's continue. Christophe would have hoped that the arrival in Puerto Rico of a ship flying Haitian colors might also bolster his image in the Spanish Caribbean. In June the previous year, the French army had occupied Spain, and Napoleon Bonaparte had placed his brother Joseph on a throne in Madrid. On learning this, Christophe immediately wrote to the Spanish governor in Havana, pledging that Haiti would recognize only the deposed Fernando as Spain's legitimate king. He wrote in solidarity as the leader of a neighboring country that had labored under French rule and proposed a peaceful relationship between Haiti and Spain and trade with Cuba. Governor Cimaroles declined to answer, but at the end of 1808, Christophe matched his words with actions by sending military aid to Juan Sanchez Ramirez, the exiled governor of Santo Domingo, who was attempting to liberate the colony from France. The authorities in Puerto Rico reported that Christophe was quick and generous in sending arms, along with his general, Jose Campos Tavares, and 300 troops to aid the Spanish. A Royal Navy ship may even have been involved in the shipping of Haitian men and material to the Spanish, a perfect example of the anti-French alliance that Christophe hoped would win him recognition on the international scene. Now, time out. If you watched the last episode, right, I believe we spoke about how the French had still occupied certain sections of the Dominican territory, right? And Christophe and Dessalines had invaded to try to drive them out. Now, the Dominicans on the other side of the island are trying to drive the French out. So at this point, Christophe got the warships in the fleet. He's sending arms and ammunition. He's sending his warships over to the other side of the island to help the Spanish revolutionaries drive the French out the island. Now I know the Dominicans, they hate us, so they're never going to tell this side of the story. But, it's the facts, though. It's the facts. Christophe sent them guns and Christophe sent them boats. Let's continue. When Santo Domingo fell in the last week of 1808, Christophe's assistance helped the Spanish achieve what he and Dessalines had failed to do a few years earlier, expelling France from its final stronghold on the island of Hispaniola. Tavares wrote to Christophe about the honorable manner in which he had been received by the Spanish and the military councils he had shared with Ramirez. The aid was well received by the military government in Spain. In February 1809, they wrote to the governor of Havana instructing him to appoint an emissary to cultivate relations of friendship with the Black Chief. Sumarolles had just refused to give an envoy from Pétion permission to land in Havana and had no intention of opening up diplomatic ties with Christophe or allowing any black leader to parade their independence in the largest Spanish slaving port in the Caribbean. Although he received multiple orders to open official ties with Christophe on behalf of the Spanish crown, he simply refused to comply. While diplomatic recognition remained in the hands of unsympathetic actors and his navy continued to raise awkward questions for its neighbors, Christophe still had much to cheer about in 1809. His Independence Day speech that year, delivered in Port-au-Prince, celebrated the expulsion of France from the island and the common cause that he had formed with the Haitian Spaniards. He formally declared construction of the citadel the Palladium of our liberty, to be complete with its artillery and position and magazines overflowing with supplies. Despite the drain on manpower caused by the Civil War, the fortress had been greatly expanded since the death of Dessalines. Its northern face had been completely remodeled, with the addition of a sharp wedge bastion joined to the main fort with a massive rotunda with walls raised over 40 meters high, facing out to sea like the prow of an immense stone ship. It shielded the rest of the citadel from prevailing storms commanding off the coast, making it the impregnable heart of Christophe's government. The builders had been equally busy at the foot of the mountain. The mansion that Christophe had built after independence was turned into a palace that he named Sans-Souci. Now, time out. If y'all know, y'all remember, who did Christophe kill back in, who was the big maroon leader, the big maroon chief back in episode 5? I think it was, who Christophe had killed. That was General Sans-Souci. So when Christophe built his mega palace, his super palace, he named it Sans-Souci, which was built right by the site where Christophe had killed Sans-Souci. Facts. Let's continue. The official gazette of the state of Haiti commended its magnificent setting and the new embellishments to the building that were being added every day. Bunel sent white and slate gray marble from the United States to decorate the palace, and Christophe had asked Goodall to bring him fine wallpaper from London. The admiral forgot, but later claimed that such was the opulence of Christophe's plan for the palace, he nailed gold doubloons to the walls as substitute instead. Oh my God. Christophe had gold doubloons hanging up on the wall. Man, Christophe was different, man. From the plantations to the palace, man. I should have named this series that. From the plantations to the palace, man. Let's continue. The citadel and the palace were material reflections of the confidence Christophe felt that a final victory over Pétion must be imminent. In October 1808, Pétion had personally led another military expedition to the town of Saint-Marc that ended in disaster. When the siege began, a northern counterattack led by André Vernet cut off the army from the supply lines, while Christophe's navy repelled an attempt to land in the harbor. Within weeks, Pétion's army had completely run out of food. On the 18th of November, a sustained bombardment on his camp caused a reported 300 deaths. Soldiers fled through thickets so dense that their torn uniforms were left hanging on the branches. Pétion tried ordering a counterattack to cover his retreat, but with his army crumbling, he only escaped by disguising himself as a female follower, an act of baseness that was hardly credible, according to a report delivered to Christophe, but one that the northern printing presses were nevertheless quick to publicize. In Christophe's national newspaper, they said, man, Pétion ran away from the field of battle dressed as a female. Oh my God. The ancestors was trolling. Man, the ancestors was funny, man. Let's continue. In May 1809, Pétion tried again with a new campaign from the town of Mirebalais. It was said to be his last major expedition to the north. After successfully capturing the town of Verret, he left General Gérin to consolidate the army's position and retired to Port-au-Prince. A small, fast-moving second column was then ordered to make an audacious dash to the north across Haiti's central plateau to descend to Gon-Rivière, the old maroon stronghold from the Revolution and deep in the heart of Christophe's territory. Unfortunately for Pétion, the northern army received advance warning of the incursion and reinforced their positions at Fort Sud, on the banks of Gon-Rivière du Nord. The defending commander repelled a southern cavalry charge by waiting until the horses had almost reached the bayonets of his troops before ordering them to fire. The assault dissolved into a wild retreat. David Troy, one of Pétion's most experienced generals, was killed, and over the following week, the army made its disordered way back to the south. In the northern counterattack, Christophe's troops even captured the strategic Republican fort at Bougassin. Gérin's force was now completely cut off. He eventually received word that a ship was being sent to the town of Vacaé for them if his men could cut their way through. But when rumors began to spread that instead of being returned to their barracks, they would be sent to reinforce the garrison at Mont-Saint-Nicolas, many of the soldiers chose to desert Gérin instead. He eventually made his way back to Port-au-Prince, utterly humiliated and bitter at having been abandoned by Pétion. In January 1810, Gérin was killed at his home in Savo after being suspected of leading a plot against Alexander Pétion. Christophe celebrated his successes with a round of promotions for his officers, while Pétion was left with the realization that he was being permanently outmaneuvered by Christophe. Now, we could end part 7 right here, man. It's part 7, right? I believe so. We can end part 7 right here, man. You know, a little shorter, but you know, I got to get up early tomorrow. But anyways, man, we're going to be right back to it. We're going to try to get through this whole book. We're going through this whole book, man. We gotta examine this whole joint. Anyways, it's your boy Neferkar. That's Salim back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the album, man. Support the album. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife. Yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city they loving me. Standing alone I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They trying to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I been gained weight. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drive a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife. Yeah, I'm hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Making the